The idea for Classic Spring came up about 2 years ago. I left the Globe Theatre, which was the theatre I'd worked at for about 10 years. And the Globe Theatre was a marvellous marriage, is a marvellous marriage of the plays written by Shakespeare and the architecture. And there's a very good, strong, natural marriage between the architecture and the plays, and they reveal each other and they make each other more vital. And I was thinking about our wonderful, glorious West End theatres, the prosceniums, built largely between the 1850s and the 1930s, and how they were built for a certain sort of playwriting and a certain sort of play, and how those plays had sort of fallen rather out of fashion and they were done much less frequently, and how well they were made for that architecture. And so it seemed like the natural thing to do to try and create a company that brought the plays and the architecture together.
What is my wife's fan doing here in your rooms?
Many a woman has a past. I'm told she has at least a dozen.
The proscenium theatre is a natural outgrowth of how theatres were developing through the 17th and the 18th centuries, and it is where you have your audience on one side of a large room stacked up, and they're looking at a play occurring within a picture frame. Wilde, Shaw, Noel Coward, right through to David Storey in the 1970s, were obsessed with painting and were obsessed with the plasticity of a proscenium theatre and how things move around within a frame and what's important here and where the focus should be there. And so they wrote very specifically as if for the cinema, almost in some ways, but obviously with a vitality and a energy and an excitement that's very specific to the theatre as well. Oscar Wilde was the first person to go to because he was very early in the story of proscenium theatre, but also because he's such a vital figure in the history of our culture. He was an iconoclast, he was a rebel, he was an innovator, he was a determined individualist. He wanted to live life his own way, at the time in a way that scandalised, shocked, upset people, and he paid a very, very heavy price for his determination to be himself and to be honest and true to who he was. Well, all of the plays have a very subversive spirit going on underneath them, Lady Windermere's Fan included, and they all celebrate wickedness and freedom and love of pleasure and seeking out your own path through life rather than worrying what the world thinks of you or society thinks of you. I think the most fascinating thing about Oscar Wilde in many ways is that you never know quite what he's thinking or where he is, and that he can, within a single sentence, hold two completely opposing viewpoints. Who manages to do that in the present day, I'm not sure. Because, you know, one of the less exciting things about our present culture is that people often seem to feel they have to be on this side or that side, and they have to correspond with this audience or that audience, or this newspaper and its collection of opinions, or that website and its collection of opinions. And the idea that you don't have to worry about that at all, that as an artist or a storyteller, you simply follow your own line, and it's very hard to imagine people that have got the courage or the freedom to do that in this day and age. Cathy is brilliant, free-thinking, subversive, a natural comedian, and there's a sense of mischief in there and a sense of warmth and a sense of humour, which is all Cathy's own, but also she knows how to stand and how to occupy space in the way that those people did. So it's an honour to work with her, really, and I think that there's some naughtiness, mischief, wickedness in the heart of Oscar Wilde, and together with a generosity and a warmth and an understanding of love. And all of that's very true of Cathy as well. The whole revolution in terms of satellite broadcast of theatre and recording theatre and transmitting it in a whole variety of ways is purely because the technology has suddenly become so exciting and so delightful to work with. In the old days, analog days, when it was very flat videoing of theatre, it was absolutely deadly, and it didn't really deserve to be shown anywhere else, and it sort of killed theatre because it made it look so flat and so drear. because the technology of the cameras and the sound equipment and the sharpness of the image has all galloped ahead, it's now possible to give an impression of what an evening in the theatre is like a long way away. And for us, simply the fact that on an evening of live broadcast we can play to another 30,000, 40,000 people who wouldn't be able to come and see it in the theatre is a great honour and a great privilege, and something we're very, very delighted to do. After Lady Windermere's Fan, we've got Ideal Husband in a delightful production by Jonathan Church with Edward and Freddie Fox, with Nat Parker, Sally Breton and Frankie Barber. And then the end of our first year of production will be Importance of Being Earnest, which is one of Oscar Wilde's most celebrated and best loved and most gloriously sublime plays.
I don't know what society is coming to. Most dreadful people seem to go everywhere.